It's fantastic to be here in the International Solar Alliance's wonderful pavilion. And I'm really pleased to be here today, kind of opening this event. Just like to welcome all you here. Thank you to the ISA for hosting this event. And I think it's an important time at this moment in kind of the COP30 presidency to really think about energy access and what it means. Energy, as we know, is central to the 2030 agenda for sustainable development and also for achieving the objectives and the ambitions set out in the Paris Agreement. Energy access, as we know, is an enabler of inclusive growth, climate resilience, and economic development. Energy access really is the hub, the focal point through which all of these other beneficial outcomes come together. And it's why I'm really pleased to be here today. I would also be remiss if I weren't to mention the UK's own strong partnership with the Indian government when it comes to energy. I was in India in February, along with our Secretary of State for Energy. And I think the partnership that the UK and India have on energy is a real positive example how countries from different parts of the world could come together on this agenda in a really effective manner. The UK is proud to be a long-standing partner in advancing energy access across Africa in partnership with African countries. And I think that word "in partnership" is really important. This isn't two countries in Africa. It's not on behalf of countries in Africa. It's a genuine partnership responding to the demand signals and responding to the demands of African countries. In 2015, the UK, alongside Southern leaders, played a central role in the adoption of Sustainable Development Goal 7. And we welcomed the World Banks, the African Development Banks, and 29 African head of states' commitments and leadership on Mission 300. The presidency's World Leaders Summit last week highlighted the centrality of energy access and modern cooking for the whole of the energy transition and its importance to global climate goals. So what is the UK doing? Well, the Transforming Energy Access Programme, of which I'm pleased to be involved, is the UK's flagship platform, supporting early stage testing and scale up of new clean energy technologies and business models for developing countries in sub-Saharan Africa, South Asia, and the Indo-Pacific region. We need to move innovation from scalable solutions that can transform lives and economies. And that's what Transforming Energy Access is doing. And so just to run through some of the achievements and the highlights of the Transforming Energy Access Programme since 2016, it stimulated 872 clean energy innovations in areas such as mini-grids, pay-as-you-go energy solutions, energy storage, smart energy systems, and many, many more. It's improved clean energy access for 30 million people in developing countries. That's almost half of the population of the UK who now have improved energy access thanks to this scheme. It's prevented 4.6 million tons of CO2 emissions, showing how energy access and the energy transition go hand in hand. And it's mobilised £1.6 billion in additional public and private investment, alongside creating and supporting over 150,000 jobs, mostly in Africa and Asia. And so I think this is a really good example of how partnerships in delivering energy access across governments, civil society, and the private sector can have real, tangible outcomes that make a difference for people on the ground. The UK is also really pleased and proud to be partnering with the ISA in advancing global solar energy solutions. As an ISA member, the UK aims to support advancements in solar technology so we can better harness the power of the sun. We aim to triple our own domestic solar capacity by 2030 through a transformative rooftop revolution, very much learning the lessons of the Indian government whose similar scheme has been so successful. And I think it's important to recognise the ISA's leading role in convening stakeholders, mobilising capital, and driving action on energy access. And so I'd really commend the ISA for its recent MOU for procurement under the SIDS platform, which you can read more about over on that banner over there. And so I'd just like to end by really recognise the joint efforts to accelerate innovation and scale in Africa's energy landscape. By working together, the UK and the ISA and all of us here today aim to support the deployment of solar power at scale, fostering local innovation ecosystems and creating pathways for inclusive growth. So as I'm sure you all are, really looking forward to this coming panel discussion. Some key stakeholders from across the energy access sector, and encourage you all to share your insights and really forge genuine collaborations that accelerate energy access across this space. And so I'd now like to pass over to kick off the panel. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for those very informative, insightful remarks that have set the scene for our panel discussion. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to a cool and comfortable pavilion. Thank you, ISS, for providing this. My name is Sheila Paracha, and I am the director of the Energia International Network on Gender Sustainable Energy. I'm also an external advisor for the Transforming Energy Access platform that we heard about. But I'm also the co-facilitator of what's called the SDG 7, Sustainable Development Goal number 7, Technical Advisory Group that is convened by UNDESA to inform the intergovernmental processes on the progress that we're having with energy. And I'm delighted to be able to moderate this very important discussion on transforming energy access in Africa, my continent, from innovation to scale. Over the past decade, Africa has become a vibrant hub of clean energy innovation, a place where entrepreneurs, researchers, and communities are working together to develop new ways to power lives and livelihoods. Innovation, particularly when it happens in our countries, whether it's new technologies, creative business models, or smarter financing, offers real opportunities to leapfrog from traditional energy barriers and deliver clean, reliable, and affordable electricity to communities that have been left behind for far too long. But despite these, some of the numbers from our continent are still a challenge. More than 600 million Africans still lack access to electricity. For them, energy access is not just about power, it's about economic opportunities. It's about jobs, education, health, and it's also about tackling gender inequality. So while there are many promising solutions, and this is why I'm excited about our discussion today, we now need to move from the isolated success stories to systemic inclusion, transformation that can go to scale. And so shaping our discussion today and shaping the dialogue on how we move forward are three key questions. What innovations are breaking new ground in Africa's energy landscape? What barriers still stand in ways of scaling them up? And how can we build more inclusive, locally led systems that accelerate access and opportunities for all? And to reflect and respond to these very wide questions, I have an esteemed panel here of experts that I'm very proud to introduce. I will start with the beautiful lady on my left. And I'm starting with her because I love the name of the organization you come from, Cross Boundaries. For me, it's all about not being in silos, but really crossing boundaries. Tombo Banda, the Managing Director of Cross Boundaries Advisory. Olomide, at the far end, we have Olomide Niyafuya, CEO of African Mini-Grids Development Association, Amanda. I hope I'm not destroying you, AMDA. AMDA, yes, sorry. My sister's name was Adama, so sometimes when I see an A and an M and it's from Nigeria, I just go back to that. Sorry about that. Larry Shasore, thank you. Senior Advisor, Energy Transition Planning, Sustainable Energy for All. And Marco Serena, Chief Sustainable Impact Officer, Private Infrastructure Development Group, PIDG. You're all most welcome to the panel. Tambo, like I said, I love the word, the name cross boundary, so I'm going to start with you. And I've been very impressed with the work that you're doing because it's been instrumental in unlocking private capital for distributed energy access across Africa. Could you share with us some of the work that your team is doing in key innovation achievements and how the T platform has supported your work?
Sure thing. Thanks, Sheila. And hi, everyone. Lovely to see you all. So I lead the Innovation Lab at Cross Boundary. And at the Innovation Lab, we primarily test innovations that address the fundamental question that goes to investing in mini-grids. And that's essentially the business model of mini-grids. So mini-grids historically have had a lot of barrier to investment because the CapEx investment, which is required to put up a mini-grid, compared to the returns you get, don't quite match up. So at the Innovation Lab, we test innovations that either reduce cost, so that's on the technology side, or increase revenues. So that's, testing different business models. And we are grateful for the support of T because T actually allows us to de-risk the process of testing those innovations with developers. And we collect information from the developers who test these innovations on their sites, do the analysis, and share it with the wider sector on the impact that those innovations have on the mini-grid business model. And some of the innovations that we've tested that, have really improved the mini-grid business model, I think the big one is appliance financing. So providing end users, consumers on the mini-grid with appliances, productive use equipment on credit that allows them to consume, but also generate income. And I think this is the most fundamental element of mini-grid development, is now applied throughout mini-grid sites. But on the technology side, we're testing exciting things like second life batteries. These are batteries from EVs that are no longer used for dynamic appliances. It can be used for stationary appliances, and they can reduce cost. We're testing things like mesh grids, which are interconnected systems that allow, power sharing between businesses and homes. So we've tested quite a lot of innovations, and it's quite exciting. I think we've seen a lot more investment go into mini grids. But I like the question that you asked, like, how do we now shift, to scale, like from these isolated, innovations to really achieving scale? And I think the discussion that has to happen is really around thinking about mini grids and energy access as an economic enabler. And therefore, governments have to think about energy access in terms of economic development. What does that mean? Connecting agro-processing with markets, connecting health, education with energy access, thinking about that holistically will really, I think, allow us to get us to the next level scale in thinking through what energy access looks like.
Thank you very much for that. So I really like what you said, thinking about energy access as enabler to economic development and the opportunity cost for not doing that, and using innovation to break some of those persistent barriers, but not stopping at innovation. I really liked how you describe how you feed your results of the tests that you do back into the sector and disseminate that much wider. Thank you for that. Alamide, let me turn to you for the next question. I'm glad that Tombo started by acknowledging that the journey of mini-grids on our continent has had its ups and downs. But for me, one of the key game changers was AMDA. And because you convene, it's not acting in silos, you convene and you aggregate these developers. So could you please tell us how you are helping developers to accelerate progress across clean energy access and how the T platform has supported the work that you're doing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sheila. And I would like to acknowledge the role that Cross-Boundary Innovation Lab has played in sort of testing those things that work and stress testing the things that don't work. And also now we know the things that work and don't work through the work that they're doing. So one of the major paradigm shifts that has happened over the past few years is the recognition that of the role that decentralized renewable energy plays in the global and maybe the national electrification agenda of all the countries across Africa. They're no longer seen as temporary solutions. They're now seen as one, complementary to the traditional grid, and in some instances, the grid in some of these areas. And so with that shift, especially in the wake of the Mission 300 initiative, where we're seeing DRE right at the center, we're now seeing a different conversation less about whether and more about if the grid arrives and how do we fund these companies for scale. Some of the work we're doing is how matching in developers to investors through programs like our AMDA Capital Connect, which we recently launched in April, where we match them, developers, to a pool of investors, take them through a period of mentorship over two months that leads to a pitch day. And I'm happy to say that on pitch day, one of our members got access or a commitment of about $20 million on the spot from, incidentally, a pitch-backed funder. So what that is doing, thank you. What that is doing is that it's closing that gap, closing that knowledge gap, and it's no longer a investor said this, developer said that. Now there's more synergy. We're convening, we're bringing them together so that the investor understands the developer's perspective and the developer understands the investor's perspective. And we're continuing to scale those programs because we find that not every developer has that natural savviness for fundraising. Whilst they can build mini grids in their sleep, they may not have that network. So we're closing those gaps through programs like the AMDA Capital Connect. We also have a finance series where we upskill them on different topical issues based on gaps they've identified. So issues like project finance versus corporate finance, which one should go for when, valuation, carbon credits, and renewable energy certificates. Those very practical solutions or things that they may not or have at the back of their knowledge bank or within their knowledge bank just yet. So we try to upskill them from time to time. And one more program, which I'm very proud of because I signed the contract with Camco just as I was about to go to sleep last night, for a CFO placement initiative where we will match qualified chief financial officers with a group of mini grid developers or up 6 to 10 companies for a period of 6 to 12 months, depending on their fundraising needs or their internal financial controls needs. What that will do is that you have a series of qualified CFOs that are matched with these companies to help them sort of, clean up and refine their pitching and their financial controls. With the learnings from that program, we will then scale that program even further. What does that look like? The idea is that really of the 61 members that we currently have, we want to have at least 30 members that are being matched with very solid, high quality CFOs. Long term, the CFOs would transfer knowledge to an understudy or could be absorbed by the companies, depending on if they were successful in raising money. With that, we see that we're gradually scaling up these companies. We're thinking of them less as project developers and more as institutions. And they can now access long-term funding like the Zafiri Fund, long-term equity that will fund their long-term projects, and we see them as utilities in their own right. How is T supporting us? I have to say that the T Forum and the FCDO UK government has been very instrumental in keeping AMDA's lights on so that we can continue to ideate and think. And they fund an initiative called the Energy Access Institutions Facility, which is a conglomerate of various funders that support ecosystem builders like AMDA, Gogla, to name a few. So we continue to encourage that. They're also supporting us with delivering a health and safety standards project where we will start to bring or provide standardized health and safety procedures in 3 countries. So I'll stop there and just hand back to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Olamide, thank you so much for your comments. And Energia works with women entrepreneurs, and that hand-holding support is really important. You were talking about that for the developers and brokering the links with finance, but also the capacity building to ensure that when you get the money, you're able to invest it well. I really appreciated what you said about T, but I think one of the additionalities that T brings is the 2 of you are sitting there together. And I think that's what T does. It provides a space. And I like the way it's not a program. In fact, it started as a partnership, but I do like platforms because it finds a space where we can find each other. And congratulations on all the contracts that you have. I'm sure many of us will be knocking on your door. So, Larry, let me turn to you. Now, Larry, I've known SE for All since its inception. I was on the advisory group when it was still with the UN and the World Bank. And I'm very impressed with the leadership of your CEO, Damilola, who's also our special representative on sustainable energy for all to the Secretary General, the UN Secretary General. And I think what has also impressed me is how SE for All has linked both policy and delivery. You've gone through many different lives, but I really like the model that you're using now, linking policy delivery. Why? Because you can speak to policy based on evidence and based on the realities on the ground. So could you share with us some of the ways that SE4 is accelerating energy access on the continent and how the T platform has supported your work? Thank you.
Thanks so much for that. I'll start first of all with the support that T has provided and then talk a bit more about some of the practical work that we're doing. I mean, Olamide made reference to the support that they've got from T and how it supports innovation. And it's similar to SE4All as well. It sort of allows us to do the on-the-ground deployments that we need to do. So 3 broad areas that we've had support on. And one is, first of all, we are the Secretariat to the Mini-Grids Partnership. And again, I'm sure Olamide can attest to this, mini-grids have increasingly become the least cost way to achieve access on the continent. And it supports so many, in addition to access, it also supports productive use, it supports growth, and that's what we'd like to see. Another area in which we're able to work with or secure support from T is also with the Powering Healthcare Innovation Fund. That allows us to do so much in powering social infrastructure. One of the projects that we're really proud of is in Sierra Leone, where we've built mini grids for tertiary healthcare institutions. And that does such a great, goes such a long way to support health outcomes or to improve health outcomes. I can't tell you how helpful that has been, for example. And then finally, it also supports our thought leadership work as well. We've been able to, through support from T, publish a report on the global state of the market with respect to mini grids. So that's what it's done for us overall. So it's a broad spectrum of thought leadership to practical work. Now, with respect to access and what we're doing at the moment, I mean, we have all our traditional programs around mini grids, supporting governments and countries with improving policy, especially around tariffs for mini grids. But something that's really interesting that we are working on is Mission 300 in partnership with the World Bank and the African Development Bank. And in that, we are able to support these 2 large multilaterals with driving energy access, because Mission 300 has a goal to achieve the electrification of 300 million people in Africa by 2030, and that's not very far away. So what we've been doing, again, through the learnings that we've been able to secure through our support from T, we're now able to expand this in a live continent-wide program like Mission 300. So through that, we are doing a lot of work around access, including clean cooking, electrification of clean cooking. And that allows us to aggregate existing access programs that are run by both banks and really drive and accelerate the implementation of these access programs across the continent. So there's some existing programs with the World Bank in Eastern and Southern Africa, Ascent in West Africa, there's the Nigeria DARE, the World Bank program, and then there's also the Africa Development Bank Desert to Power scheme as well. So in this situation, we're able to work directly with governments. We're able to support them with the development of country compacts, and compacts are not only projects that they want to see, but also commitments, reform commitments that these countries make to policy in the energy sector. So they develop these compacts, and ESIFROL is there to support the monitoring and the delivery of these compacts. And we're not supporting the countries to achieve anything that they do not say they would like to do. So, so I'm just going to stop there with respect to the work. We're really enthusiastic and excited about this piece of work, and we really think that, you know, perhaps this is our moonshot to achieving electrification on the continent. So I'm going to stop there for the moment. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And we are very excited on the continent about Mission 300. Mission 300 is an initiative that was announced last year. And it is an effort to give energy access to 300 million Africans. So that's half the number that I mentioned, energy access. And I think what's really innovative about it and what's exciting about it is that it's a collaboration with different partners. Partnership and collaboration is important. It's not just the banks and it's not just governments, but it's organizations such as SE4All and even GAP and Rockefeller Foundation that are coming together to deliver on this very ambitious goal. Thank you for your comments. So Marco, we're on the panel together again. I was saying I need to be careful that I don't ask you the same questions. But Marco, I started my comments by talking about the importance of innovation. And PIDGE has invested in several energy access innovators that initially received early stage support from the T partnership. Could you share some examples and describe the tools that you're using that you have found useful to help these innovations rescale and transition to commercial capital?
Thank you, Sheila. And it's great to be here in the cool pavilion. Right? I'm from the Private Infrastructure Development Group. We invest in mini grids and in energy access solution through InfraCo, our equity solution. And we've been doing it for a few years. We are a supporter of AMDA. We collaborate with all the others on the panel. And I think we need to tell the story of the mini grid developers and the entrepreneurs that are putting this innovation forward. So a lot of them need the ecosystem that you've seen on this panel, the policy support, the innovation labs, and they also need the grants that allow them to prove themselves in what they're doing. Now, it becomes becomes a difficult space to prove the financial sustainability of an investment like mini grids and associated infrastructure, mainly because there are so many things that can go wrong. Currency fluctuation, climate, which means that then there are, the people have less possibility to pay. So one of the key things is to bridge the space between when a developer, a company is at the scale where they need 500,000 grant to when they can afford to have the first private-minded investor that can invest maybe 2 million in the first series. And that can help grow that company up to a point where they can take the 10 million, 20 million that Zafiri and others are looking to put in. So we try together with others to support that space. And I think there are many examples of same companies that the TE program has supported, and then we've come in afterwards. A few mini grid providers, but also I think it's worth mentioning that it's not just about mini grids. So it's about energy saving appliances, like you mentioned. It's also about solar pumps, electric vehicles, electric motorbikes, anything that drives, that provides infrastructure services driving energy demand is really important to put forward. So, for example, one of these companies, Zembo, that was support that is a two-wheeler electric vehicle provider in Uganda. And what we've done is, after the support that they've received from the T program, we've come in with an equity investment that allowed them to scale up to a level that now can reach 30,000 motorbikes. So I think that is the model where there is an easily accessible pool of capital for entrepreneurs to prove themselves, and then a few brave, I must say, energy investors who will look at these companies and then start working with them towards the point in which they can invest. Now, just one point, because I want to mention as well some of the challenges there. So even if we manage to do all of this, when you look at the numbers, no matter how you count them, we need a lot more entrepreneurs to do this. Because for a mini grid provider to get to some kind of financial stability, you will need probably 30,000 connections, 30,000 to 50,000 connections. I don't know how many are there yet. And then let's say that you reach that, that's, that would be, let's say 50,000. How many, I mean, you got the answer. How many in the continent are there at the moment?
Member companies? Maybe about 200 companies, but 60 of them are under members, but we need more. You're right.
And how many are the 50,000 customers?
A handful. Yeah.
So I would say less than 10, probably less than 8 or 7. So the game is to bring as many companies as possible to that 50,000, so that then you can have a different financing model when you can have bigger ticket size and aggregation, and probably companies starting to look at, mergers and understand who can do things better. So I think that's where the T program plays a really big role, but it doesn't go to the 50,000. So they need the investors like ourselves or Acumen or some of the others to bring these companies there, and that's the space that we're trying to play in.
Thank you so much. And it's music to my ears to hear an investor who understands, also has a development perspective and understands the challenges, is open about the challenges, and knows what that starting capital is so important, but making the starting capital affordable and accessible to developers is really important. So I'm going to go to a second round of questions, and I promise you we will be able to come to the audience to ask questions as well. But I've been engaged in the energy access space for quite a number of years, certainly longer than SDG 7, which has been with us since 2015. And for me, what's really key to going to scale is putting people at the center of all our work, of all our solutions, of all our innovations. People need to be the center. And it's for this reason that I actually accepted the invitation to be on the expert panel of T, because I really appreciated that T was intentional about mainstreaming gender and social inclusion. So my next questions, and you could see from the title of my organization, are going to be about inclusion. So I'm going to start with you again, Tombo. Tombo, as an, you can use that now. Tombo, our continent is young. I think it's called one of the youngest continents at least 70% of all Africans are below the age of 35. So as an African female leader in energy access, could you share a little bit about your personal journey and any advice that you would offer to young African women entering this space?
Yes, I would love to do that. So a bit about my journey. So I'm born and raised in Malawi, and it's a country with an electrification rate of under 15%. So from a very young age, I was very acutely aware of the impact that electricity had on my life and, you know, others around me. So I was always interested in sort of getting into the energy space. I was also blessed to have a dad who was an engineer and really convinced me to also pursue an engineering path. And he did that because he said, you know, engineers solve problems. You're interested in solving problems, become an engineer. And it was amazing advice. So I trained as an engineer. I worked in the engineering field, and then, you know, moved to consultancy, now into energy, and now more broadly into the investment space. So I think advice I would give to other young ladies who want to follow this path is, number one, I would say pursue a technical education. I think I value my engineering degree and my technical knowledge because you know, no one can, pardon the French, bullshit me about, you know, technical things. You know, I understand it, I know it well, and that foundation really allows me to have informed discussions, informed decision making about, you know, innovations that we're going to test. And the money stuff can come later. I think that's the easy part. If you understand the fundamentals of actually what you're trying to do, the money part flows. So I would actually recommend get a technical education, get some technical experience before you kind of come into this sort of money side of things. And that will help. And I must say, it's been amazing being in this space and having, you know, trailblazers like yourself, Elizabeth, that I can look up to, and you've cleared the way for us to come through. And then, of course, we have peers now. So Damilola leading at SC for All. We have a bunch of really very strong African women in the space. So it's really an inspiring place to be, and I would highly encourage others to follow that path as well.
Thank you. Great remarks. And I do want to also give a shout out, aside from Damilola, give a shout out to Rachel Kite, who is I think she's your special envoy on climate. And she has also been, and Mary Robinson before everyone else, Her Excellency Mary Robinson from the UK, for being those role models. I don't know if I'm pronouncing the name Lamide or Lamide. I'm actually also Nigerian, so I should be pronouncing it properly, but I have a challenge. So I did say inclusion, people-centered is important, but also local ownership. And I think that has really been over the past few years, at least 5 years, that has been something that in Africa we have been championing, that it has to be locally led, locally driven. So to what extent are local communities involved in the ownership, delivery, and governance of mini-grids? And what models have you seen that best empower communities to participate effectively?
Thanks so much. Do you want me to use my strongest Yoruba accent?
Please. My brother, please.
It's Olamide, which means my wealth has come in Yoruba language. Incidentally, I know that a part of Brazil, in Salvador, they actually speak Yoruba, so I feel very much at home. Anyway, back to the question. So I will unpack the local ownership question in 3 parts. One is the ownership from the perspective of buy-in to the projects. The second is ownership from the perspective of the impact on the communities. And the third is the real ownership, share ownership. Local ownership is fundamental in all those parameters. From the perspective of buy-in, it is absolutely essential. And one of the things that many of our members have said, that your success or otherwise of your mini-grid project depends on your ability to secure the buy-in of the ownership of the people who would end up being your customers. One of many ways we've seen that buy-in is in various rural peri-urban communities in Africa. You'll find that there's usually a village or a local chief that is that represents the community. So they typically would engage through those paths. Some might have associations sort of that represent them. So once a mini grid developer is trying to set up a shop in an identified community, they would work through those organizations to secure buy-in. That helps, one, because you're able to secure what we call the exclusivity agreements with those communities, which gives you time to run your feasibilities, probably fundraise, close your secure the grants from programs like the Distributed Access Through Renewable Energy at Scale program. What that does also is that it helps the developer understand the community a bit better. What are the commercial opportunities? What type of community is it? Is it a agriculture-based community? Is there opportunities for productive use? So that way you know exactly, you're doing your KYC, you know your customer. You can right size your technology to suit the exact needs of that community. From the perspective of impact, one of the smartest things that many companies are doing is that they're hiring people from those local communities to either as technicians or as community engagement specialists. I will invite you to listen to a podcast that we just launched, a podcast series we just launched with the Inensus group called The Mini Grid Moment. It's a subset of the Mini Grid podcast. It's available on all the usual social media platforms, and it's a documentary style podcast series where you're listening to every single person across the value chain, and you're hearing some of the communities, the customers speak about their experiences. I would encourage you, anyone here, to listen to that podcast because it gives you a very practical understanding of what local buy-in looks like from the perspective of the mini grid companies. The third one is the local ownership of shares. It's still very low. However, we're seeing the emergence of what you call cooperative models. In some instances, there is a joint ownership between the developer and the community. So in countries like Zambia, one of our members actually set up a cooperative where the local community owns a portion of the proceeds from that mini grid company. So those are various models where we're seeing the types of local ownership, but it's absolutely fundamental in ensuring the success or otherwise of any mini grid development. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you. So decentralizing the ownership and making local communities shareholders in some of these companies. Excellent. So Lara, I think moving forward with Mission 300, one of the ways in which it's really going to deliver impact is how it's going to balance its bottom-up and top-down approach. So we all went to the launch in Tanzania with our heads of states. There were 7 heads of states, and very excited about that. But at the end of the day, it has to come to the ground. So how do you balance bottom-up innovation and top-down policy direction to ensure that scaling efforts remain inclusive and effective?
Well, sorry, excuse me. Well, I think that's exactly it. You do have to balance them both because everything has a role to play, and that's really how SC4All sees the landscape as well. And that's how we work. We work with government, with policymakers to, and as I said earlier, to deliver these compacts or to develop and present their compacts. The investment projects, the policy changes they would like to make, the investment opportunities that exist on the one hand. Then on the other hand, our engagements with developers, working with entities like AMDA, with support of T, through our results-based financing programs, where we support developers and provide them with basically market shaping and market making opportunities. And we're also working, another aspect in which we're engaging with developers is we're working to develop a DRE platform, a financing platform in partnership with Africa 50, the infrastructure fund, as well as, and it's now been seeded by the Nigeria Sovereign Investment Authority, starting with Nigeria, and it's supposed to be an Africa-wide investment platform. So again, I suppose this is how we then come come down. So we've done the policy work, we're doing the delivery, driving the methodology for the connection methodology, identifying where we want to be, ensuring that we've included clean cooking, etc. And then on the ground, how then where are the projects? How do we invest in them so that everything can come together into 300 million by the end of 2030. So doing that, identifying the blended financing, identifying the patient capital, and really pushing the actors to act, basically. So we're very enthusiastic about this DRA platform that I think it was announced earlier this year in Africa 50 and NSIA. So that work has begun, and we're now basically bringing together and mobilizing other financiers to grow this Africa-wide fund. So we do need to balance everything. We do need to bring everyone together to this goal. And I think it's about time. We're seeing a lot of results. I mean, you guys have had such a great conversation. I'm very heartened to hear the progress that's there, the work that Cross Boundary has done. So I think we're there. We just need to bring everything together. I think we're very close.
Thank you. Great to hear. And I think another thing that I'm very excited about who's on the table is that we're not talking about individual countries. We're talking about crossing boundaries, but we're talking about Africa. Really seeing Africa not just as individual countries, but seeing us as a total economy and how we move solutions together as a continent so that we can become an aggregated, very powerful force on the global scale. Marco, my last question to you. And Marco, the question that I have goes to the heart of what I think is really the success of SDG 7, or is going to determine the success of SDG 7. We've only got 4 years. 2030 is around the corner. We've only got 4 years to achieve SDG 7. I think one of the key things is how SDG 7 is delivering and being an enabler to the other SDGs, and also is accountable. So in the context of health, Marco, and Olamide alluded to this at the beginning, but the health and safety standards are critical for ensuring long-term sustainability and also public trust. I talked about accountability, and public trust is really critical in that. So how is PIDGE embedding these practices across its investments in energy access?
So health and safety is fundamental. So when you are moving to bring new technology in communities that they have not seen that technology before, the key thing is understanding what the risks are and make sure that the people are safe around these investments. There's so many reasons to do that. The first one is the importance is that every single person is important, and every single incident can have really long-lasting impacts on that individual, the families, and the communities. We know how many people depend on each other in each community. So the sector has got obviously tremendous opportunities by creating new jobs that require technical skills that can go hand in hand with creating opportunities in areas that didn't have them before. And we've seen more and more companies that are hiring locally, both on the sales side, but also on the technical side. But health and safety is a crucial part of that. We're seeing this in obviously the installation, but also in how the community interacts with the mini grids. And crucially, given the fact that there are batteries involved with fire. So we made a deliberate investment in a health and safety capacity of some of the mini grids. Now, when a company is starting, has got no access to capital, is not profitable yet, to have a conversation on increasing health and safety standard is not the easiest thing to do. But that's where I think, again, joint efforts from the sector are very important. I want to go beyond that. You mentioned trust. I think it's really, really important. The communities need to trust the new companies that are coming with them, and listening to them is really important. So one of the things that we're also working on is providing access, or working with our investees, with our mini grid providers, to go to social facility and schools and hospitals across the board, because that at the beginning there was a lot of isolation in the sector. So we would have health programs that would only think about providing electricity for schools or for hospitals, and the communities around wouldn't have electricity. And these things don't work because they create mistrust and they're not accepted in the community. So I think what works is to think about servicing regions and entire communities, and then ensuring that as many people as possible benefit and can become customer, supporting those who need it, with mechanisms to do that. So I think there's two parts to that answer. The first is health and safety and the standards needed and the support that these companies need to get to that level, because otherwise they risk losing the support of the communities. And on the other side, ensuring that we deliver real benefit in the society. So in terms of health, jobs, productive activities, and this can be done with this more comprehensive approach. The last thing I want to say, I'm optimistic. It's a very difficult sector where, from an investor perspective, I think we've had highs and lows, and we went through the phase in which we thought that everything was going to be easy, and then realized it was not going to be easy anymore. But I think there are now enough initiatives that are looking for scale and coordination that make me optimistic about progress going forward.
Thank you very much. Now, I did want to open up for questions, but I'm just looking at the time. And do you think I have just one question? One or two questions? Okay, so I've been allowed to do so. So are there any, and it doesn't have to be a question. It can also be your own experiences. So it can be an intervention if anyone would like to take the floor. Yes, please.
Português? Eu queria saber, eu acho muito interessante essa parte da energia solar.
Can I talk for her? She thinks it's really interesting. For her, yeah.
Eu acho muito interessante essa temática da energia solar.
She thinks it's really interesting, this the solar energy.
Eu gostaria de saber
She would like to know
o que eu posso fazer para investir nisso logo de início. O que eu posso fazer? Eu tenho interesse em investir no assunto. O que eu tenho que fazer?
to have an interest in invest in this thematic.
E qual é o tipo de benefício de investimento que é voltado para esse caso?
And what is the type of investment that it's related for her?
I think I'm going to keep it to one question. Yeah. So, yes, the question is about investments and the type of investments that you would need. Who would like to? Marco.
So at the moment, the space is still small but growing. And so the investment opportunities that we're seeing are a combination of equity, so patient, because the risks are still very high, with some grants that help on the capital cost and the startup cost of the investment. There are a lot more opportunities later on because we've tried to look at the future revenues of a company and invest through that, so release value from that. So put that together into a package that somebody can finance, and with that we can you buy the right to the future revenues, and then you can finance these initial stages. And I think cross-boundary on the other side of your business is doing some aggregation as well at a larger side. But at the moment, most of it is grant and equity investment, right?
Yes. Yeah.
There's a bit of that starting with guarantees as well that I've seen. One key thing is this is a local currency revenue business and local currency has a lot of fluctuation. And that means that for dollar investors, it becomes even more difficult. So that's one of the key things. But a lot of the initial CapEx investment is in dollar. So this is one of the challenge for which we are together finding solutions to that investment.
So just to add, what we need for scale. So it's great to have grant subsidies that support upfront acquisition of CapEx. But what we need for scale are two things. One is building sustainable business models where the revenue assurance is taken care of. And we're starting to see the emergence, or we see the emergence of various solutions or business models like very much productive use of electricity, where you provide appliance financing to the community based on their needs. So for example, if a community is known for rice production, you can provide a milling machine. So it means that they can industrialize or scale up their production, which means that they're earning enough money to pay back for the power that they're consuming. And they're also being the power pretty much all day. The second is what we see as the anchor business community model, where we have an anchor business that is, if you like, consuming a base load, maybe 50-60% of that power, where residual power goes to the community. So those are the models we're trying to see. And what that means is that if we start to build more sustainable, bankable business models, you will see more affordable, long-term patient capital. And then maybe one more point that I should add to this point is that long-term, we want to start seeing local manufacturing so that you address that importation issue. You're not having to import a lot of your equipment, which will be usually dollarized, and you address that foreign currency risk exposure that many mini-grid companies are faced by. Thank you.
And I had one more thing to add, actually, which is the number, the scale of the investment that is required. And I think the number for mini-grids alone on the African continent is $91 billion. And I think to date, I know AMDA members have raised 60 million or something, right? Cross-boundary energy access is doing well. So I think they've raised about 150 million. We still haven't hit 1 billion. So there's 91 billion that is requiring to be invested in the next 4 years. Okay, if we go half for the 300 million, 45 billion. So we are extremely far behind. It doesn't matter the type of investment, patient capital, patient equity, and all of this, we have to address that. There needs to be like a step change there. And I guess we're trying to solve those problems, but I just wanted to highlight that it's really a big number that we have barely hit the surface of.
Thank you. Thank you for the question and thank you for the responses. But now I am going to bring the discussion to a close. And before doing so, I just want to I would ask you to join me in giving a very big round of applause to our panelists. Thank you. So now I'd like to hand over to Kara Mangotra, almost an African name, actually.
Okay.
Specialist Strategy and New Initiatives at the International Solar Alliance to deliver your closing remarks.
Okay.
Oh, is that not? I was supposed to. Oh, okay.
It's all right.
It's all right. So,
Oh, okay. So
ladies and gentlemen, my name is Aditya Tiwari. I work for Governance and Partnerships at the International Solar Alliance. While Karan is attending to some very important agendas, I can only say what a perfect close to this Friday afternoon. Yet another round of applause for the fantastic panelists before we all head out for a Friday evening. So, as we discussed during the session, a significant population in Africa will continue to lag behind in terms of electricity access if we do not act now and scale innovative solutions. And the main challenge, of course, is behind the lack of projects in the region with a combination of both perceived and actual risks. It is important to highlight that solar projects in Africa have demonstrated lower than expected default rates, making them attractive investment opportunities. However, the high risk perception persists. ISA has been working to operationalize the Africa Solar Facility. We have already received commitments of about US 71 million from various funders, including the World Bank. And through this facility, we are providing 15 million in junior equity as first loss guarantee to the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority, hoping to unlock about 150 million US and in turn leverage a USD 500 million distributed renewable energy Nigeria fund. Beyond access, the continent also faces a severe challenge in irrigation. On an average, about only 4% of the land in the region is irrigated, significantly lower to what is in China and India, where the irrigation is accounting for about 52% of the total agricultural land. As a result, the average rice yield in Africa is only 1/3 of the global best practice. Solar pumps, they present a viable solution in expanding irrigated areas. Real-world examples, including that from Uganda, which saw a 193% increase in annual production, adopting solar pumps. And the market for solar pumps for smallholder farmers in sub-Saharan Africa is projected to grow from USD 734 million today to USD 1.6 billion by 2030. So ISA is expanding its programs on solar water pumps and solarization of agriculture value chains across the African countries. And the third point we would like to highlight is the unique opportunity that Africa has in digital leapfrogging. Africa can transition directly to digital, decentralized, clean power systems due to its limited legacy grid infrastructure, low electricity access, and high transmission and distribution losses, 4 times, in fact, the global average. Digital leapfrogging is not new to Africa. For example, the mobile cellular subscriptions in sub-Saharan Africa grew from 44% in 2010 to 89% in 2023, demonstrating that the region is ready to rapidly adopt to digital solutions. And utilities and their inefficiencies, of course, cost the African power systems approximately USD 15 billion annually. So a large part of that investments that are needed can be saved, in fact, from those efficiencies. It's driven by power theft, poor collection, and operational challenges, making digitization indispensable. So at the International Solar Alliance, we are working on a multi-donor trust fund and a digital twinning initiative with the aim to accelerate this transformation by supporting digital twins, AI-based network organization, competitive tendering, and a unified knowledge platform. So with this, thank you so much for joining us at a very wonderful Friday afternoon. We wish you the very best and a great, great, great COP30. Thank you all for joining us.